Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is the video version of my Tech Guy podcast. In order not to fill your hard drive with 6 hours of unedited video, we've decided to make a little cut down of this 2-show set. This is the best of Saturday and Sunday, December 18th and 19th, episodes 727 and 728. Enjoy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy, and we're going to talk about technology for the next few hours, as we do every weekend here. This is a good day to talk tech, because, of course, coming up on the holidays, I know a lot of you will be doing some buying. There's some new phones out there. There's lots of different choices in all sorts of gear, and that's what we talk about: how to buy it, how to use it, how to lose it when you're done, how to abuse it. 8888 Ask Leo is the number. 888-827-5536. Just got in my hot little hands the Nexus S. This is the new Google phone. Google has, since the earliest days of Android, which is now 2 years ago with the G1, had a phone that was just pure Google. Android is a funny operating system. You know, when you buy a BlackBerry, it's got BlackBerry OS on it. The only people who can make a phone with BlackBerry OS on it are RIM, so it's all the same. It's a BlackBerry. You kind of know what you're going to get. I mean, they have different form factors. Some have keyboards, some don't, etc. But you know, there's not some major variations in the operating system. When you buy an iPhone, it's Apple or nothing, and so the iPhones are all the same. Different amounts of memory, maybe the different generations, but the fundamental operating system, it's all the same. Well, unfortunately, with Android, it's a little different. See, what happened is Google actually bought Android. It was out there in the real world, and they made it open. They made it free for anybody to use, and they published the source code out there, which meant that any company could come along and use it for any device. They created the Open Handset Alliance, and all the manufacturers, Motorola and Samsung and Sony Ericsson and so forth, became members of the Open Handset Alliance. And so they all kind of support the open handset, the Android, which was a cool thing because by making it open source, it meant that other people could modify it, play with it, get a sense of it. I like open. I think open's a great thing. It gives us choice. In fact, I'll be talking in a minute about a story where if you might wish that it were open. I'll talk about that in a second. But meanwhile, what's happened as a result of the openness of Android is that anybody can make an Android anything, not just a phone, a tablet, an e-reader, and there are tons. The Amazon Nook is Android. But it's a particular flavor of Android that doesn't have a marketplace, so you can't add your own applications to it. And every Android phone, whether it's the Motorola Droids, the Samsung Activate, Captivate, the Galaxy S line, or well, there's tons of them. HTC. They're all a little different because the company can take Android and do anything it wants with it. So Google, who still is kind of the keeper of the flame and does most of the development on Android, says, well, we're going to release a phone that's just pure Android, pure, unadulterated, flavored Android that will always be guaranteed to have the latest version on it. And they do that so that developers, for instance, people who write software for Android phones can have kind of a plain vanilla it's vanilla. A vanilla handset that is the Google experience, and then after they develop for that, they can say, well, now we need to make modifications for Motorola or HTC or Samsung or whoever. So the original Google phone was the G1. That was really the first Android phone because nobody had any faith in Android at the time. Android's picked up. In fact, Google just said the other day, Andy Rubin, the guy in charge of Android at Google, said 300,000 activations a day of Android phones. That's 9 million phones a month. Way outpacing anything else out there, including any other smartphone out there, I should say. Nokia still sells far more than that. But any other smartphone out there, including the Apple iPhone. But then they did the Nexus 1, remember that? which was, I thought, a great phone, and that one was made by HTC. This is the new one. It came out on Thursday. A Samsung Galaxy S, basically adapted to Google. It's called the Nexus S. You can only get it at Best Buy. Google isn't even selling it. And the carriers, as far as I can tell, are not selling it. It will only run on T-Mobile in the U.S. So you could put a AT&T SIM in it, but it would only give you edge capabilities. However, I got to say, it's just a really slick, fine phone. It's become my new phone of choice, beating out the Droid X because it's pure. It has the latest version of Android, which nobody else has yet, called Gingerbread in it. Boy, that's fast. I just think it's just a dynamite phone. Really good-looking screen. It's that 4-inch screen that Samsung's putting on the other Galaxy devices. The AMOLED screen. Boy, I love those. If you're watching at home, so we send out video at live.twit.tv of the show. I know it's crazy. It's a radio show. Watching at home, what do you mean? But if you are watching on the internet, you'll notice my backdrop is black. Why do I do that? Because AMOLED screens, unlike LCD screens, use no power when the screen is black. So if you want to get, and this is the problem with all the Android phones, but particularly with this phone, battery life ain't great. So if you want to get the best possible battery life, don't have a live, they have those live wallpapers that dance and don't do that because that uses up juice. And put a black screen behind there and use black whenever you can as your theme for, for Twitter or whatever program you're using. Use a dark or a black background because the darker it is, the less juice it will use. And boy, you do have to nurse these for battery life. However, a very nice phone. 5-megapixel camera, not 8, like the Droid X. But you can't measure by pixels anymore. This 5-megapixel camera, I think, is the best Android camera I've used yet. Much better than the Droid X. Front-facing camera, too. Just like the Apple iPhone. Nobody's using these, but at some point, I guess we could all be making video calls. At least we have the capability. So you can use the higher quality back camera, or if you want, you can switch to the somewhat lower quality front camera, which you can use, for video calls, but also for screenshots or just to make it easy to see what you're taking a picture of if you're taking a picture of yourself. I like this. I would say this is my phone of choice right now. T-Mobile only. You have to have a good signal from T-Mobile, but I think it's a pretty nice phone. It's the Nexus S. Kind of a fan. So I mentioned that open source issue. There's an open source operating system. You probably heard of Linux. That's the best known, but there's one called BSD that's actually widely used, OpenBSD in particular. That's the flavor we're talking about. Teodorat, who is the guy who created the software, is responsible for it, sent out a bombshell this week. A bombshell to the community, telling the open source and free OpenBSD community that the FBI had paid developers to sneak backdoors into the encryption in OpenBSD. Now, you understand why law enforcement officials don't like encryption, because bad guys can use it to hide their evil transactions. But, we can use it too, legitimately, and that's a good thing. Very interesting controversy going on over this. Lots of denials, but it raised a huge issue in the open source community. Did the FBI pay developers to put secret backdoors into this encryption software? It's my opinion that they did not, and that this didn't happen. But we have to look. But here's the thing that I think is most important, and one of the reasons I recommend, especially for encryption, for security, I recommend open source software, because you can always look at the source code. Somebody who knows what they're looking for anyway can always look at the source code and say, no, no, there's no backdoor here. They can tell. May not be immediately obvious, but I'm sure there are people looking at OpenBSD right now to see if there's a backdoor in it. So far, a code audit, and that's been going on all week, has not revealed any backdoors. Some bugs, but so far, no backdoors. So I'm thinking that this didn't happen. Nevertheless, it sure scared a lot of people. And a lot of people believed it. I think they believe, oh, yeah, it's just a matter of time before law enforcement tries to sneak in. In fact, there's a law in Congress right now that would mandate a backdoor for law enforcement on all encryption products sold or given away or distributed in the United States. It would require that the keys to the scrambling be available to law enforcement. On the face of it, seems like not a bad idea, because terrorists, use encryption. But on the other hand, we trust the government right now, but what if we were in China? Would you trust the government? It's a very interesting concept. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We'll talk about that and your calls right after this. That's 8888 Ask Leo. You can call in with a question, a comment, a suggestion, anywhere in the U.S. toll-free. 8888 Ask Leo. And by the way, if you're outside the U.S., you can use Skype out and call, and that works pretty well too. I was just playing with the new Maps 5.0 for Android, the Google Maps app. I presume they'll update it for the iPhone as well too. It's a couple of nice features. One, they have the maps load faster because instead of using I don't know if I can explain this. Instead of using bitmaps for the map, which means dot by dot drawings of the roads and the highways and the features, it uses vector drawing. It's kind of like instead of using Photoshop, using Adobe Illustrator. When you use vector, the nice thing about vector drawing of roads and features is that it scales perfectly as you zoom in and zoom out. So the map seems to load faster. Don't be fooled. I mean, it still has to load the data, but it seems to load faster. They also add the ability to twist it on not on all phones. Not all phones have the multi-touch capability to do that, but you could turn the orientation of the map. And here's a really cool thing. With your two fingers, you can also, if you scroll down or up with your two fingers, you could change the angle of the map. So it's kind of like Google Earth. You know how with Google Earth you can kind of get a lower angle on the horizon and it looks a little bit more real. And if you go to somewhere like, say, New York City, where they have added models of the buildings, the skyscrapers, you actually can see the skyscrapers from a bird's eye view and then kind of swoop in down among them, which is kind of cool. Google's doing some very interesting stuff. Rumors now that the Google Facebook clone is going to be called Plus One. Like Leo Plus One. And that it will be include video conferencing, like with up to, I think, was it 9 people at once? And this toolbar that you'll put on your sites, and you'll have this kind of this makes sense that Google would do this, overarching Google presence as you surf the net, keeping its eye on what you surf on and providing you with information about your friends and neighbors as you go to a website. Forget privacy when you use something like this. I mean, then Google really knows everything you do. And obviously, that's their intent, but they're trading, they're trading privacy for something of value. That seems, and as long as you, I think, that's in my opinion, as long as you enter with eyes wide open, they're clear about what they're doing. They're collecting information about your surfing so that they can sell ads to you, actually sell ads to advertisers to get to you, which is what we do, right? This is how free media works. As long as they're clear about that, and here's what you're getting in return is this, this useful software that gives us whatever, video conference or something, then I think that's fair. But they've got to be very upfront and really tell you, this is what you're giving up. This is what we're going to do with that data, and here's what you're getting in return. And then you and I and everyone else can make that distinction, that decision about whether is this worth it. That's, to me, the answer to the privacy conundrum. It's okay if you're upfront about it. What's not okay is if you steal my information without telling me, and you sell it without telling me or without giving me anything of value in return. 8888 Ask Leo. Let's get to the phones. And speaking of New York City, John is on the line from Manhattan. Hello, John. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking my call. My question is this. My friend Marcus and I are in the beginning stages of starting an online broadcasting network, and the major obstacle we're running into is a lack of bandwidth. We operate out of NYC. Both of our homes have abysmal broadband connections, and we can't afford to move somewhere in the city with Fios just yet.
Yeah.
Now, we did buy a Sprint 4G overdrive, which it works like a dream outside, but it screeches to a halt in many cases indoors. And we were wondering if you could recommend some sort of good do-it-yourself project that would allow us to network a couple of overdrives together, or some sort of reasonably priced alternative.
That's an interesting idea. So, 4G from Sprint is something called WiMAX. It's a WiMAX technology. And you're right, it probably doesn't work as well indoors because it's a kind of a line-of-sight technology. You could probably get an external antenna that then retransmits inside the house. They make those. I don't know if they make them for 4G frequencies, but they do make them for 3G frequencies and for phone as well. So for people who can't get cell phone service inside the building, they can get it by putting an antenna outside and stringing wires and a transmitter inside. That may be one solution. Bonding them together is another idea. So 4G is supposed to give you a lot of bandwidth. We broadcast from CES last year using 4G. And my experience is if a lot of people are using 4G, it's probably not much better than 3G. You know, all of these cell phone data technologies are shared, so the number of people using that cell site will determine how much bandwidth. If nobody's using it, then you're going to get great bandwidth. Early reviews, for instance, of Verizon's LTE are just saying, wow, we're getting 20 megabits per second down and 8 megabits per second up. Yeah, because you're the only one in town who has it. As soon as it becomes a commercial product, then you tell me what you get. And I think you're going to have the same problem with this that AT&T has in places like San Francisco with the iPhone. The more people that are using it, and by the way, we're now seeing data statistics for Android users, and they use even more data than iPhone users. So it's the trend is not good. You know, people who went out and ran out and got Sprint's Evo and are using the 4G network, well, that's great until everybody's got it. And now then you're going to have the same competition for bandwidth that you have with every other system. You can bond together multiple 3 or 4G signals. We use a commercial product called the Live U from Live, I think it's Live, the letter U.com. And that's exactly what it does. It has slots, and it's like a PC that you carry on your back. I carry it in a backpack. It has, it's kind of wild looking.
That's the rig we want. That's the rig we want.
It's expensive, but this does it. You can have up to 6 3G connections in here, and it's basically like a satellite television truck that you can broadcast from anywhere. And what it does is it takes the various connections and bonds them together. But in order to do that, it's doing a lot of magic behind the scenes. Oh, they also make the LiveU HD60, extending cellular range, converting dead zones to live zones. It sounds like they make a device that does exactly what I talked about, which is to improve your signal from the outside into the inside.
Something I would be able to take with me to different locations and set up as needed.
Well, that's how we use the LiveU, but it's thousands of dollars a month. I mean, it's not cheap.
Yeah, no, I mean, we really want to use that. And that was awesome seeing you crowd surf, by the way, with that rig. That's
an example of how amazing that thing is I was wearing the backpack. This was at South by Southwest last spring. I had a camera on a monopod, and I'm on stage, and Kevin Rose and Alex Albrecht convinced me to jump into the audience and let them surf me along on their hands. A thing I later learned was quite a risky thing to do, because if they drop you, you can really get hurt. But I was fearless because I was ignorant at the time. And what was great was that backpack continued to broadcast. I held the camera above me, and I don't know if you've seen the video, but it's remarkable because I'm surfing along with it. So that's what that thing will do, but it's not cheap. We are using it again at CES this year. Let me tell you about a kind of a homegrown solution, John, when we come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Goodbye. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I was just watching the video once again of the crowd surfing moment at South by Southwest. I was using one of these backpacks that bonds together 3G data connections, actually up to 8 of them. I think we had 3 or 4 at a time. Connected it to a live camera. Now, imagine, this is something that I can remember years ago watching Dan Rather on the floor of the convention. This is probably 1964 or 68, wearing a ginormous backpack, which all it really did was get from the floor of the convention back to the skybox where the broadcast equipment was, using microwave transmissions. Well, you know, fast forward 50 years or 40 years, and all of a sudden, we're able to, with relatively inexpensive consumer electronic gear, broadcast live from anywhere to the internet, from anywhere to everywhere, for very little cost. I mean, the camcorder I was using was an inexpensive Canon HV40 camcorder. The only expensive part was that LiveU backpack, which I think is, a few $1,000s to lease a month. But still, a few $1,000s a month is a lot less than millions of dollars for that kind of gear. So John, we were talking before the break about you doing something like this, and Mushroom Networks makes something that's a little more affordable that will do exactly what you want to do. I don't think you can home make something like this. I really don't. I think you have to. There's quite a bit of R&D that goes into this, and these guys have a lot of secret sauce.
This is a gourmet solution for us, then.
Yeah, it's they call it the mushroom portabella. They also have a porcini. Mushroomnetworks.com. I would take a look at that. You know, it's really a shame you can't get better bandwidth. Are you on Cablevision?
It's driving me crazy. No, it's through Verizon, and it's honestly the worst broadband I've ever experienced. I mean, I just moved here from California, and my experience with broadband out there has been fantastic, but I just can't believe how hard it is to get good broadband in the city.
If you went on the street and asked people, well, who has the best internet connectivity? They would, in the world, they would almost all say, oh, the United States, we invented the internet. Of course, we have, broadband everywhere. We've got the best connectivity. And the FCC just found out that about 2/3 of the people with, quote, broadband in the United States have speeds lower than the official definition of broadband. That we, in fact, rank in the 20s worldwide for availability and cost and speed of broadband. We really have a very poor infrastructure, and I think that sometimes that happens when you're the first to invent something. We're the first to use cell phones also. You're saddled with the original technology, and there's less incentive to do the latest, greatest thing. In Korea, South Korea, cell phones came in, and from the first, they were fast and effective, and they have broadband just to die for. Sweden, 100 megabits for 10, 15 bucks a month is routine. And here in the States, we're lucky for $60 a month to get a megabit or two. Now, it's the upstream that matters to you. I think you know that, John, because you're in effect broadcasting to the internet. And really, don't shoot for HD. I would shoot for standard definition. Best, actually, what we've decided on for my network is 480p, which is DVD quality. And the reason is you can make it too good. A lot of people won't be able to see it. It'll be slow on people's computers, slow to download. 480p, if you watch our broadcast at live.twit.tv, even on a big screen TV, looks pretty good. I bet you people think it's high def. It's not. So that'll be easier to work with. It won't require as much bandwidth. I'd say if you have 500 to 700 reliable, and this is the key, reliable, consistent megabits, kilobits up, you'd be probably all right.
500, 700?
Yeah, if you go, you can actually look and see if you go to live.twit.tv, we give you a variety of different streams. There's 1,000 kilobit stream. That's the highest quality we do. That's a megabit a second. And there's a 400 kilobit stream. And you can compare one to the other of exactly the same content. And I think you'll see that really 400 kilobits is fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the only one I'm actually able to watch you on, unfortunately.
Well, and that's exactly why we do it, because most people don't have that capability. So if you click the bit gravity 400, you'll see we provide a variety of different ways of looking at it. 400, 1 megabit, 600 kilobits. So there's really kind of 3 settings, and it's not that it's not bad. Even the 400 is not bad. It's a little confusing when I'm showing it on screen, but it's not bad. So that's what I would say is do the best you can, but don't be too disappointed if you can't do high def, because most people can't see it.
Well, thank you very much for your help. You're a hero to geeks everywhere.
Thank you. Very kind. I really want to support people doing what you're going to do, John, because I think it's really cool to broadcast on the internet. What's your programming going to be? What's it about?
Well, it's basically going to be entertainment-oriented programming, so around theater, around web series and everything, and art as a whole. But it's still early days for us. We wouldn't be able to handle the traffic you command just yet.
Well, that's why I use Ustream and Justin.tv and these services that give you free bandwidth. YouTube's going to start doing this very soon, I think. And so the truth is, if you're broadcasting live or you put it on YouTube, that's free. So it's just getting it there that you have to pay for.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think we call you back when we're ready for a plug, though?
Yeah, we'll give you a big plug. Absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, John. I won't say the network. There was a producer from a major television network in the studio last week here, looking around, snooping. He took pictures. He was looking under here. He's very interested in how we do what we do. From time to time, the networks come by and say, well, how do you do this? Because the pressure on them is to get cheaper and cheaper production, right? And they're very curious at how internet broadcasters are working. But ultimately, the internet broadcasters are going to win because they don't have to worry about protecting their primary product, which for the networks, that's a big deal. You can't cannibalize your television audience by doing stuff on the internet. So they never really can go all in the way that an internet broadcaster can, which is great. That leaves an opportunity for somebody who wants to do an internet show wide open. Look at, I bring this guy up all the time because it's just a perfect example. You ever see the Fred Figglehorn videos on YouTube? It's a kid. He's like, I don't know, he was 16 when he started doing it. They're very annoying because they're not aimed at adults. They're aimed at preteens. He has a very annoying voice, and he does, it's funny. And the 12-year-olds think it's the funniest thing they ever saw. Now, Fred would never have ever in a million years gotten on any network, Nickelodeon, ABC, NBC's, never, because they would have said, oh, that's annoying because they're adults. They don't know what a 12-year-old thinks is. They would say, I can't watch this. This is driving me crazy. It's driving nails into my brain. So Fred Figglehorn would not exist except that he could, with his mom's camcorder, put it on YouTube for free. I don't know what the last time I looked, 30 million downloads. He's got a show now with Nickelodeon because he proved it. This is exciting. This is democratizing. This means that anybody who's good, who has an audience, even if you don't think it's good or I don't think it's good, but there's an audience who thinks it's good, can do what they want, can broadcast. And that's why, frankly, everybody's running scared in mainstream, in television, in radio, in records, in film, because here comes everybody. Stand back. Here comes everybody. That's the name of a book by Clay Shirky, which everybody should read, about this explosion. I think what we're going to see, and Clay says, is a creative explosion, because the tools for creating are cheap. I'm reading the Keith Richards autobiography about his days starting the Rolling Stones and so forth. And in the early 60s, he said all anybody ever wanted to do was record. But, to get to record a record, you had to have a recording contract because it was hideously expensive. Nobody could afford a studio. You had to, get so far, make it, and convince somebody, usually somebody who didn't know much about music, that you were good enough to record. And then they owned you. You signed contracts that gave away all the rights. Well, anybody can record now. Anybody in their basement. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Here it comes. Probably the biggest change to hit personal computing since the Macintosh in 1984. Apple's App Store is coming January 6th. The success of the App Store on the iPhone, I think, has prompted Apple to say, well, what if we did the same thing on a desktop computer? In other words, what if we started selling Apple software only through this store? It's kind of like an iTunes. And you buy apps. They're fairly, they're less expensive, maybe $10, $15 each. You can see on the front page of Apple.com, a prototype of what it looks like. And the price is on here for iPhoto, $15, GarageBand, $15, a game that's free, a $30 color studio program, a $5 Fastlane game, just to show you kind of the range, I think, from Apple. I imagine developers are going to jump on this bandwagon because Apple gives them some advantages. One, they do all the distribution. If you're in the App Store, just as if you're in iTunes, you kind of get featured. It's a great way to sell. Apple takes 30% for that, but I think a lot of developers are very happy if they get 70% and they don't have to do anything in terms of distribution and marketing. They don't have to worry about getting, if you think about it, what does a store take? 50%. So it's a better deal than getting into, egghead software. Not that those are around anymore, but it's a good model. I think developers seem to like it. And here's my fear. How long before that's the only way you can get apps on a Macintosh? Automatic updating. I mean, it has a lot of the advantages. This is what people love about the iPhone. Automatic updates, and it's easy to buy. They already have your credit card. It's just one click. There's a lot to be said for it, but I have a feeling that this is really going to change how we think of software and how we think of computing. Apple's doing it first, but I guarantee you Microsoft will do it in the next version of Windows if it's a success. January 6th. Derek, Chicago, Illinois. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Derek.
Hello, Leo. Hello.
Welcome to the show.
I'm glad to have found you on the internet. I used to watch you all the time on Tech TV.
Thank you.
My question is regarding my laptop. I have an Acer laptop, and whenever I plug the battery in and charge it, it starts to beep.
Uh-oh.
And I've tried this. I've taken the battery out, no beeping. But as soon as I put the battery in and try to charge that battery, it beeps.
How old is it?
And I bought this Acer in January of 2009.
Well, it's not that old.
No.
Not old at all. It's going to be 2 years in next month.
Yep.
That seems a little premature for the battery to die, but that's what it would be my guess. I don't. Maybe the chat room has an Acer.
I also I figured it was the battery, so I actually bought another battery.
Yeah.
And that battery worked fine for the first week or so I had it, and then it started to beep as well.
Oh dear. Oh
I've
dear.
also had this problem with the HP laptop that I had before I had this one.
Same kind of problem?
Pretty much the same thing, yeah. But when I had the HP laptop, I started to have other problems. I want to say within 2 or 3 months after that. Now, I don't know if that's the one.
Wait, where is the beep coming from? From the computer or from the charger or?
It sounds like it's coming from the speaker on the computer.
Okay.
Which happens to be right where the battery is, but I believe it's the speaker on the laptop.
You know, I am thinking that it is not. In fact, I don't know, and I think what I need to do is talk to somebody who has an Acer laptop or see what Acer says. It sounds like it's a feature of Acer's. I haven't seen this in other laptops before, but it's my guess, especially since you did change the battery, that it's the charging system,
Right.
or something like that. And you say you've had this problem with other laptops.
I've only had 2 laptops. This is the second one. The first one I had was an HP. And the same thing happened. And I had that one for maybe 3 or 4 years before it started happening.
You know, I would go out and get a voltmeter, get an electrician to test your power in your house. Make sure that you're not over voltage in the house, that you don't have anything weird going on in the house.
Okay.
But I mean, it seems like we all just assume, oh no, I got 110 volts, it's going to be perfect, and in fact, there's some variation, and it's if you have, and I get calls like this from people whose stuff keeps dying. And it almost always turns out to be over voltage in the house. Isn't that weird? I don't know what's going on. I don't know what Acer does. If HP did the same thing, it would be my suspicion that it is something to do with the charging system, not the battery. And it might have to do with your home. Okay, now here's here at notebookreview.com, a forum thread that somebody in the chat room has said to me that says, yesterday I purchased an Acer Aspire, except I get an awful beep when the cord is plugged in and removed from the laptop. And that's not a continuous beeping sound, though, not an alarm. I guess that is something that goes on with the Acer. I'm wondering if that the power is coming and going, and that's why you're getting the beep. You can disable this. Device Manager, View, Show Hidden Devices. You're looking for a plug-and-play driver called Beep. What? Yes, a plug-and-play driver called Beep. It's a hidden device. Actually, non-plug-and-play driver. And there is maybe in the power management on the Acer something like Beep when power is disconnected. So the Acer does apparently put a beeper in there. And I'm thinking that beeper, when you connect and disconnect the power, may be being triggered by a loose connection on the motherboard, a loose connection in the power supply, something like this. Mary Beth, Brownsburg, Indiana. Hi, Mary Beth. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Well, hello, Leo.
Well, hello, Mary Beth.
Well, thank you for answering my call. I wish that I had a more exciting reason to be calling you.
Yeah, I know how that is. Sometimes tech support calls are not very interesting. What you're having a printing issue?
I have had the same printer for several years and had no issues with it. It's an HP all-in-one. And I've uninstalled all the software, reinstalled all the software. I've downloaded it from HP, and continually it goes to another copy. I get copy 1, then copy 2, then copy 3. And if I try to delete copies, the one that is there sometimes comes up offline.
Right. So each copy is what it really is a spool file. It's okay to have multiple copies of the printer. It doesn't take up that much space. It's a little weird. It's a little confusing. Why do you keep reinstalling? Is it stop working?
No, I did the uninstall, reinstall when this issue started. I just thought that might clear it up because I've never had a problem like that before. I always could just print and just never have a problem. So
have you fixed the problem?
No, because honestly, there's occasionally when I try a print, I get the printer it will be offline. When I install the software again, it comes up with a like a continual thing that I haven't finished installing it.
Right.
There'll be a bar, going across, and it'll say it's installing and finish, and I finish, and I think I finished, and the next time I try to print, it comes on again.
Well, that's frustrating.
Or if I try to print, I'll get the little bottom right in the taskbar. There'll be a little icon that comes up and says,
So here's the deal. It's a USB printer, right? It's a USB printer. Physically disconnect the printer and delete every copy of the print spooler, every copy you have. Install one fresh, then plug in the printer and let it finish the installation. That's what's going on. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We're talking about with our last caller, and I ran out of time, and I do apologize about printer issues. USB is funny, especially on Windows. You'll often see when you get a new USB device, they'll put a big sticker on the USB plug that says, "Stop! Install the software before you plug this in." There is an order in which you have to go through a USB install. And, the thumbnail sketch of this is the driver has to exist on the machine. Then you plug in the device. The device goes through Windows Plug and Play, looks for the driver, finds it. That's where you see that little thought bubble that pops up and says, "New device discovered. Installing software to new device. Your new device is ready to use." That's part 2 of the installation. So my recommendation for our last caller, and anytime you're having problems with this, especially with printers, uninstall everything you can. All the drivers, all the spoolers, all the copies of it, delete till you don't have any printer. Or at least don't have any copies of that particular printer. Really strip it back all the way. Unplug the printer. This is key. Do not have it plugged in when you do this. It's unplug it because otherwise it'll kind of replug and play. You want to unplug the printer and get rid of all the driver, all that's cruft. Then go to the website for the company that makes it and get the latest, greatest version of the software for that printer. And pay special attention to make sure they get the software that's exactly right for your version of the operating system. If it's Windows 7 64-bit, get that one, not Windows 7 32-bit, and vice versa. You want to get as close a match as you can, exactly the version, and pay particular attention to 32 versus 64-bit. Those will guarantee you be different drivers. Then install that driver before you plug in, and this again, don't plug in the printer. Install the software. Complete that step, and now you can plug in the printer. And if you want to be thorough, somebody in the chat room suggested this. I thought this was a good idea. Plug it into each USB port. Plug it in, wait for the thought bubble to pop up, blah, 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 wait till it says it's okay, now you can use your hardware. Unplug, plug it in again, unplug, plug it in until all the USB ports are covered. Because different USB ports sometimes have different device drivers for them, and you want to make sure that it's installed for all of the USB ports. Then you should be all right. You should be all right. I think that's the process you want to go through. Derek, Chicago, Illinois. Oh, wait, we already talked to Derek. Let's talk to Rich in Findlay, Illinois. Hey, Rich, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. Good to talk to you again. I talked to you here probably about a year ago, and had a question on Skype at that time about it, whether or not it was audio. Its audio was stereo or mono, in conjunction with working with a podcast for music production.
Well, did you ever find out? I thought it was mono, but I don't know. Did you ever find out?
Yeah, it's mono, unfortunately. Yeah. At least the version we were using then.
Yeah, now they keep upgrading Skype. Now you can do all sorts of stuff, so who knows?
Yeah, my question today is along the same lines. We're getting ready to introduce a new podcast, a new broadcast we're doing, where we're doing music reviews for independent artists online with music experts.
That's such a great idea. What a great idea. What's the website? Can I give it a plug?
Yeah, sure. I'd appreciate it. msi.icweekly.net.
The letters IC?
Yeah, icweekly.net.
MSI.icweekly.net. MSI stands for Music Scene Investigation. I like that name, like CSI. I get it. Music under the microscope. What a good idea. You know, I always think there's so many great unsigned artists out there, more now than ever before, who deserve to be heard. I mean, they're as good as the signed artists, and sometimes better. So, but the problem is, how do you get known? Well, this is a nice idea.
Now, the question I have is, right now we're planning on having music experts from industry and related industries being on the review panel.
That's neat. And they're from all over the world. I see Ian's in London, Tom's in New York.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What we're wanting to do is find a great way to be able to play these files back for our panelists during the live show, and also have them played back for the audience. We've got most of it worked out. Now, the panelists will be joining us via Skype, of course.
Right.
The only way I can figure out getting this thing to be able to be done in stereo is to set up a panelist-only page where they can actually listen to the playback through their own headphones. But that kind of detracts from the timeliness of it.
You know, it's Skype, the company that does Skype, has done a great job of making a product to do basically audio calls and video calls over the internet. And they've been focused on a couple of things. One, good quality audio, good quality video, real-time two-way conversation, which is very hard to solve, but they've solved that. They haven't paid a lot of attention to other things. For instance, podcasters who use Skype, and many of us do, would love, a way to make the quality better, to handle errors, things like that. Stereo, there's a good example of something that'd be great. But there's no incentive for them to provide anything special for these people because we're just a small minority compared to the literally tens of million people who just want to make free phone calls over the internet. So that's who they serve. And I do wish there were, in fact, somebody suggested to me, and I'm very tempted to do it, funding an open source project to create a better voice over internet solution for people who broadcast on the internet.
I think you'd have a lot of other podcasters backing you up on that one.
I think we're going to do it. I think we'll use something like Kickstarter. I don't know if you've seen that website. It's such a neat idea. Yeah, if you have an idea for, say, a project, but you need funding for it, you go to Kickstarter, you say, here's a project. If you would like to support it, pledge some money, and if we get a certain amount of pledges, we'll cash them in and we'll do it. And you'll get certain access to it. And I think that's probably what we're going to end up doing. I need to find some really good programmers who understand these very specialized needs. I will absolutely add to it the idea of stereo playback. And the other thing that we need, and I bet you need too, Rich, is you need very fast real-time back and forth. You know, when you watch CNN and they're talking to somebody in Afghanistan and they ask them a question and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they answer. That's what's called network latency or lag. That's how long it took for the question to get through the internet or through the satellite to the reporter, and then for the reporter's response to get back. And latency kills a real-time conversation. So Skype's done a great job of making it almost instantaneous. You know, if it's less than half a second, then you can talk. The problem is, in order to do that, you have to be willing to degrade the quality a little bit. For instance, if a packet is kind of, running along behind it and gets lost, you have to just say, okay, we're going to lose that one because we want to be real time. We can't wait for you to catch up, which means on voice over internet and other, internet-based conversations, you get real-time conversation, but every once in a while, because some packets got lost over the internet. And that's what you give up. Now, what we would like, and I bet you would like too, Rich, is real-time conversation, but also something running in the background that saves all those late packets and constructs it so that the recording is perfect.
Yeah, that would be nice. And for us, even more importantly than that is, bandwidth considerations. We're doing this broadcast on actually live broadcast on 2 DSL lines.
Wow. With
only 400 kilobits of upstream on either one, one of which we use to dedicate to broadcast, and the other one we use for Skype calls, Skype video, and stuff like that.
Well, and that's what Skype does so well. It works really well in a bandwidth-constrained, laggy environment, and that's what they tuned it for. But you give up features, and I don't know if we could do stereo over 400K, for instance. I mean, stereo doubles the requirement. Let me look into it, and maybe somebody listening knows of a better solution. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. My phone number is 8888. Ask Leo, 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., and I know we have lots of listeners all over the world, use Skype out and call that number. It'll be free because it is toll free. 888-827-5536. Let's go to Costa Mesa, California. Derek, you're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo.
Hey.
Big fan of yours. I think you do a very good job at what you do.
Thank you. I try my hardest.
Pardon?
I try my hardest.
It shows.
Thank you.
Now, I'm an inventor / entrepreneur of sorts, but I'm still I'm kind of semi-literate in technology, but I'm still technically illiterate. I don't know much. And I was wondering, where can I learn about hardware and software, stuff like circuitry, and what communities are available for me to learn more about technology, new stuff, new technology that's coming out, and basically communicate with other people?
Boy, that's a tall order, but there's good news. There's this thing called the internet that has pretty much everything on it. You know, one of the things I would look at, boy, this is such a resource, and I think often overlooked, is iTunes U. iTunes, the Apple product that I'm sure are aware of, you can buy music on and listen to music and so forth, but also supports podcasts, and it also supports, and I don't think people really are aware of this, it supports universities in putting their content online. And if you take a look at what's available in iTunes U, you will be blown away. For instance, let's say you want to learn how to write software for Apple iPhones and iOS. You want to learn how to program. Stanford University has a course every fall, very famous course every fall, where they teach their computer science majors how to write iPhone software. They have people come in from Apple. Well-known developers come in to lecture. It's an amazing course. They give it every fall, and many great iPhone apps have come out of that course, including Pulse. And so it's kind of a very successful course. Guess what? It's online, free. Free. Not just the course, not just the lectures, but all of the notes, all of the tests, all of the projects, the assignments. You don't have to pay for a Stanford education to learn how to program from the best in the business. So if you go to iTunes and you just look, I think a lot of people don't know about it. For a long time, iTunes, you didn't expose it, but they do now. Right at the top there, this little thin black bar that has home, music, movies, TV shows, App Store, podcasts, audiobooks, right there, iTunes U. And you drop it down, you'll see business, engineering, fine arts, health and medicine, history, humanities, language, literature, math, science, social science, society, teaching and education. Pick the engineering category. Universities all over the world are putting courseware online. There is nothing, you don't need to go to college anymore. You don't need to go to college. You can learn anything you want for free on iTunes. Right there, Stanford, Winter 2010, iPhone application development. It's Fall 2010, developing apps for iOS. Everything you'd ever want to know. You can get the highest, most, it's incredible. Programming methodology, programming paradigms, introduction to robotics, MIT's course on circuits and electronics. For free, and MIT puts the entire course online, you can get MIT's course in circuits and electronics, the fundamentals of circuits, free. And once you do that, you can then see what Oxford has to offer, or Stanford, or Yale University. This is all online, free. So if you ask me, how can I learn this stuff? How can you not learn this stuff? That's just one example. You can do a Google search and you'll find all sorts of courseware online. I have to say, though, this is the single best resource, if you ask me. And if you've got an iPod Touch or an iPhone, many of these are video. This course in circuits and electronics are actually lecture videos, so you can watch the professor give his lecture. You can download this. You can watch it on, on your way to work, on the subway. Everything's in here. I wish I didn't have to sleep. We live in amazing times. All of this, every university now in the United States is looking at this. I served on a committee for Yale University, and the challenge of the committee was really interesting. We reported directly to the president of Yale. The challenge of the committee was, how can we take all of the resources of Yale, including the 7 million volume library, the amazing museums, all the courses, all the writings, all the professors, how can we take that stuff and put it on the internet for free? That was the challenge. President Levin, the president of Yale University, said, "Oh, don't worry about making money on it. That's not our mission. Our mission is to store and deliver the world's knowledge to anybody who wants it, and we want to use the internet to do that." And that's not just Yale. That's nowadays every university. That's their job. That's what they want to do, and they're giving this stuff away. So, boy, I almost wonder. I've got one kid in college paying a heck of a lot of tuition, another on the way in a couple of years. I'm kind of wondering, maybe I should just get them a laptop and lock them into their bedrooms and say, hey, you got 4 years to learn everything you can from the internet. I'll talk to you in 4 years. The party wouldn't be as much fun. But it's pretty amazing. If you are a self-starter, and it doesn't just have to be in the U.S., if you're a self-starter anywhere in the world, and you really care, and you really are smart, and you really want to learn, there is nothing to stop you now. Look, this is what this show is about, is a revolution that's happening, and this is another facet of that amazing transformation. It's all out there available waiting for you. I envy my kids' generation because, first of all, they grew up with this, so they're very comfortable. That may be a disadvantage. They may take it for granted more than I do, more than our generation does, right? Because, well, we're looking at this going, wow. They go, oh, yeah, well, of course it's online. What do you mean? Why wouldn't it be online? Everything's online, isn't it? But I envy the opportunities to any kid today. And I think it's really important. Education is so important. Now, what now becomes super important is that kids get access to this technology. They get internet access. This is why I'm so big on making broadband universal in this country. You want to turn around the economy in this country? You want to make America, well, it already is, but continue as the bastion of innovation, of smarts. You make sure every kid, even in the inner cities, the poorest of our kids, have access to this stuff and are helped by mentors who say, look, it's here. You have an opportunity. You can do this. And if we did that, this is easy. This is a lot easier than building a better school. This is just giving them access to this technology. Just imagine. So a great question. I'm sorry I kind of went on a tirade, but really it's out there. And launch iTunes. It's free. Go to iTunes U and just take a look at the range of information available to you for free. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Yeah,
so
super.
I should explain to folks, Dick DeBartolo has been writing for Mad Magazine practically since the beginning. He's Mad's maddest writer. He also is a gadget hound, has been for years, and we do a show every day on my TWiT network called The Daily Gizwiz, in which he gives us a great gadget. And I like getting you on the radio show, first for that big plug, and second, to talk about a gadget. What do you got today for us?
Well, we have new glass. It was something we talked about on the Daily Gizwiz, and last week I did it on ABC News, and I forgot how much people like these kind of glasses. They're from Pantavision. It's the newest version of their LED reading glasses.
You mean they light up?
Not only did they light up, but 2 years ago when they came out, everybody loved them, and they had the little bolt-on battery and LEDs.
I have one of those, yeah.
Yes. Well, the newest version, Leo, the LED in the battery pack now is built right into the frames.
Oh, wow. So those are like
they-
readers. Those are reading glasses.
Those are reading glasses. They are wildly bright reading glasses. You can turn on each light individually, so great for reading in bed at night without disturbing your sleep mate. Great for on the airplane. You know, on the airplane they have those dinky little overhead
Oh, you
lights.
can't see a thing. Yeah.
You can't see anything. When you turn them on, it lights up the
thigh.
snack tray.
Yeah.
Yes, the thigh, or the person in front of you, or the person behind you.
They've never aligned those things. They're always lighting something up, but not you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the new versions, you can get every magnification and quarter magnifications from 1 to 3.0. They're, depending on where you buy them, they're $25 to $30. And they say you get about 50 burn hours out of one set of batteries. Batteries, the little battery compartment slides open so you can replace the battery yourself. And they come in either turquoise or black.
Now, do you have to get these from the Panther Vision website, which, by the way, is...
You can get them from the Panther Vision website, or, they probably won't like me for saying this, if you look for Foster Grant glasses, you will find them for $24.95. But it's okay, because I called Panther Vision and said, hey, I think Foster Grant ripped off your exact technology. And my friend Mike at Panther Vision said, oh, no, we licensed them the technology, or that they might even actually build the glasses for them. So it's $5 cheaper that way. And there's one website, and I won't mention the name because I never wrote it down. It just annoys me. It's free shipping for all glasses, $25 and up, and they sell them for $24.99.
1 penny.
Really, really mad.
1 penny. Can you just say, I'll give you a penny for the shipping?
I don't think you could do that. The
do
form has no,
no way to bargain.
No.
Panthervision.com, or look for the Foster Grants. They're lighted reading glasses.
They're called Light Specs is the model name for the new version, Light Specs.
I think that's a really great idea. Yeah. I don't know about you, but the problem, I often find that the problem is that the light, like in a restaurant, I can't read the menu, not merely because I've got old eyes, but also because it's so dim. A little more light, I can often read.
Yes, and they seem to print them. I think 17-year-olds set up the type for those.
That's how the web is as well. The web obviously designed by people under 40. Dick D. Bartolo is at gizwiz.biz. Thank you, Dick. We'll talk to you in a few minutes with the Daily Gizwiz. And thank you all for being here. I'll see you next time. I'm Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. We've got Scott Wilkinson, our home theater guy, coming up. He's going to be here at 33 after the hour. And we could talk about big screen TVs. That's always a good gift. Blu-ray players. We could talk about cell phones. Very personal gift, but maybe you know what the person in your life wants or likes. 8888 Ask Leo, that's my phone number. 888-827-5536. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., you can use Skype out and call because it's a toll-free number. It shouldn't cost you anything. 888-827-5536. Do you use a bookmarking tool of any kind? To keep track of your bookmarks. Of course, on your browser you probably do. And I think this is kind of a specialized application. But there's a site called Delicious. It used to be del.icio.us. I think that might have slowed its adoption. Yahoo bought it from Joshua Schachter, the guy who created it about, I think, 5 years ago, almost to the day. And they did a few things to improve it. Mostly, they just changed the URL to delicious.com, which is a little easier to remember. They didn't really change the software much. And 5 years later, they're saying, we're going to kill it, or we're going to sell it, or we don't want it anymore. And I think that's kind of sad. But maybe nobody uses it. I use it a lot. If you go to delicious.com/twit, that's my account name, because that's my network of podcasts is called TWiT. Delicious.com/twit. You'll see that as the week goes by, this is how I use it. I've got little Delicious buttons on all my browsers, and if I see an interesting story, I'll snip a little paragraph from it. I'll press the button on my browser. I'll create an entry on Delicious, and I'll put some tags to reflect what the story is and what show I want to talk about it. If it's the tech guy, I'll put TTG in there. And it's very handy for me. And then I can go to delicious.com. In fact, I do right before the show every week. And see what the big stories are. Handy. There's a lot of other additional features and so forth, but that's basically how it's used. And Yahoo, this is an example. I think Yahoo's kind of in trouble. Yahoo announced this week they laid off, 4% of their staff, and they announced at the all hands meeting in which they announced that we're gonna phase out or merge a number of products. And there was a slide on the screen which somebody snapped and of course posted. Nothing's secret anymore. Nothing's secret. You could say this is at an all hands meeting. This is private. Don't tell anybody outside there. But that gets out immediately. And of course, Yahoo was upset. They said, "Well, we wish people hadn't found out that way." Well, thank goodness we found out. It caused a kind of a mass exodus. Yahoo got very slow for a while as people exported their delicious bookmarks to other sites. I decided to go to a site called Pinboard, PINBOARD.IN, which is kind of was designed around you. It's like to be a better Yahoo, designed around Yahoo. It's got an interesting story, actually. It's not a free service. It says on the front page, "Welcome to Pinboard, social bookmarking for introverts." It's kind of anti-social bookmarking. And it says Pinboard is a low-noise bookmarking site. That's why I like Pinboard. That's why I use Pinboard. And then they have, I really love this. "Should you switch from Delicious? We have arguments for and against." And you can read that and decide, well, this is for me or not. I switched, to be honest, before Delicious announced, or Yahoo announced that Delicious's demise was imminent. They have, part of the problem with Delicious is they could never make any money on it. Yahoo has a lot of properties. Flickr is a good example. It costs them money, tons of money, but can't really make them any money. And Delicious, they never were able to figure out how to make money on that. And one of the things I like about Pinboard, and it's actually one of the things that offends people, is that it's not free. But I like that because, the reason Delicious is gone is because there was no money to be made. And Pinboard has a unique way of charging. Right now, it's $8.68 for life. And where does that number come from? Well, if you click the link, it says the sign-up fee helps discourage spammers and defray some of the costs of running the site. The fee is based on a formula. The number of users times 0.001 cents. So the earlier you join, the less you pay. So if I do the math, it sounds like they've got, 86,000 users, something like that. I think that's a good idea. So if you charge for the cost of running your service, then you don't put, first of all, spammers aren't going to put anything on there because they don't want to pay $8 to do that, when there's plenty of places they can get it for free. And you're kind of telling people, look, we're going to make sure the service survives, but we have a business model. Oh, that's so non-internet, isn't it? A business model? A plan to make money? What? How dare you? We see sites go away all the time. Xmarks is a good example. I love X. Did you use Xmarks? Xmarks originally was a plug-in for Firefox that synchronized your bookmarks. So this is different from a public bookmarking site. This is the bookmarks you've got on your browser. And by the way, once they got Firefox under their belt, they extended it to Safari and Explorer, Internet Explorer and Chrome. You'd install this plugin, it would synchronize your bookmarks. Then they added synchronizing passwords. The thing was hideously useful. And they went out of business. Everybody used it. But it went out of business. Why? Well, because their business model didn't work. They had some sort of Fakatka idea that they will there's something there. They would collect people's bookmarks and they would use it. They would do some sort of data mining, and it would never really happen. Despite the fact that hundreds of thousands of people used it. They said, we're going to pull the plug. Now, the good news is along comes a company called LastPass and buys it and saves it. Thank goodness. And I suppose the same thing will happen to Delicious, that some angel will come along and buy it and find some use for it, and perhaps find some way to make money. But it's interesting, isn't it, that this happened in the big internet bubble 10 years ago. But sites, there was such a land grab. There was such a gold rush. People just said, I'm going to start a business. I don't care how it makes money. I'm going to start a website. Pets.com is very famous. And that failed when they realized that sending kitty litter via mail cost more than the sand that was in the kitty litter or the clay. It just didn't make sense. Nobody would buy kitty litter via postal service, so they went out of business. I imagine we're about to see the same kind of thing. This all leads to the conversation, the question that a lot of people are asking, are we in another internet bubble? The dot-com bubble burst in 2000, and it left a lot of empty, dead husks of companies, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. People had bought money in the stock market. The difference is we didn't have the big stock market bubble this time around. There weren't all those initial public offerings. Remember when Netscape offered stock and it went through the roof? We have a few companies like Google that are, Apple, that are stock prices going up and up and up. And most of these companies like Xmarks and others are just really not, there's no stock price. There's no open market for it. So I think that bubble, that kind of collapse isn't going to happen. But we might be in a little bit of a mini bubble where there's just kind of this, what is it they said, irrational exuberance? 8888 Ask Leo. Hey, let's talk about tech. You call me, I'll talk to you right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Let's talk computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater. I have to give you the whole list. 8888 Ask Leo. Actually, home theater, our topic in just a few minutes. At 33 past the hour, Scott Wilkinson joins us to talk a little bit about big screen TVs and the like. But I'm here to help you right now with your holiday gift shopping or your technology. Aaron's on the line from Tampa, Florida. Our first call of the day. Hey, Aaron, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
How you doing? Love your show every Sunday.
Aren't you great?
Religiously listen to it.
Thank you.
And I got sort of a TV question. I had purchased 5 years ago a Sony Grand Vega.
Oh, used to be a great TV. Used to be a great TV.
Right.
Yep.
But the only thing is I had a bulb put in when it was still under warranty. And maybe 3 weeks after that, the optical system went. My warranty ran out, and I have now little dots, blue dots all over my TV.
Oh, no. I take it when you say bulb, it's a projection, rear projection TV, I'd guess. Yes.
That's correct. That was in 05.
Yeah.
And like I say, it was a 60-inch. I still have a great picture.
Sure.
But right in the center, blue is starting to come, little blue dots. And one on Sony's website. I'd like to hear from anybody else that had that problem. And I see they had a couple class actions.
Oh, yeah?
They settled.
Oh, interesting. So there is an issue.
Yes, but now those issues are gone. Now, I had spoke to Sony the other day, and they said to me, "Oh, we'll give you $200 towards a new TV, and you have to buy it from us."
It has to be a Sony, of course it does.
Oh yes, and I think after that experience, I wanted your expertise. I'm going to be looking for I believe, a LED TV now.
Yeah. An LED, when they call them LEDs, it's actually a little bit of a misnomer. It's still an LCD TV, but it's LED backlit. And one of the advantages of that, you don't have to replace the bulb down the road. Those LEDs last a long time. I think Sony's fine, but in fact, I know Scott Wilkinson will have weigh in on this in a few minutes. But he likes the Bravias. I have a Sony Bravia, very nice. I'm a big fan, in my opinion, of the Samsungs. I think Samsung makes the best. Are you interested? Yeah, I really like Samsung LCDs, but I know Scott likes Sony just as well. Vizio, if you're looking for a lower price unit, is a very.
No, if I buy, I thought my Sony would give me, at least 10 years, and I have all Sonys. I never had anything else, but for to get 5 years out of a TV, and it's
disappointing,
ready to
isn't it?
I'm
Yeah.
going to try, I believe, Samsung.
I'll tell you though, for a long time, a TV lasts you 20 years, right? I mean, what would happen? And
so.
Technology now changes so rapidly. Even if the TV, I have a 20-year-old TV, I wouldn't dream of watching it. It's fine. It still works, but I wouldn't dream of watching it. And that's part of it. I think you'll notice, as good as that Grand Vega was, and those were great TVs, you're going to notice a huge improvement in clarity and brightness and resolution. It's going to almost look like I was watching, I have a Pioneer Plasma, one of the last Kuros, and I was watching last night a 60-inch movie, and it was so realistic. It was actually kind of amazing. And I really think that you will notice a big improvement.
And what about the 3D now? I see most.
I don't now. Here's where Scott and I diverge. I think 3D is a gimmick. I don't recommend it. It can cost as much as $1,000 more. I don't think you'll ever use it. You have to wear glasses to watch it. Everybody who's watching it has to wear glasses. The glasses are $150. Some of these TVs come with one pair of glasses. Oh, that's sociable. Go away. I'm watching TV right now. You got to buy more glasses. That's crazy. It's crazy. And there's not a lot of 3D content. I don't think, maybe there will be. Have you ever seen a movie in 3D in the theater?
No.
Me neither.
No, it frightens me because it's just, I don't know. As far as with all this technology just coming out, I don't know how long.
It's going to, look, here's my opinion on 3D. What happened? Two things. First of all, everybody bought an HD TV, and then Sony and Pioneer and Panasonic and LG and Samsung said, well, now how are we going to get them back in the store? We won't see them for another 10 years. We need to make some money. So they came up with something new that makes you presumably want to buy a TV. And, of course, 3D is perfect because the movie industry is saying, oh, 3D. It's funny. The movie industry has a completely different reason for doing 3D. They want to get you in the theater. They wanted to do something that you couldn't see on your TV.
Right.
I think it's a gimmick in both places. I don't like 3D that much, but I do think if you're in a big screen movie environment and you all go, I mean, that's not so bad. I don't know. But now that's just me, and I know there are plenty of people who think 3D is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I can make arguments right and left, but in my opinion, it's a gimmick, and I wouldn't go crazy over it. And if you feel the same, if you kind of inclined to feel the same way, I'd go that way.
Because I noticed more on my Bright House, I got some literature from them that they're going to start to have some 3D TV, if your TV is.
Right.
It's a $10 bill more a month if you want to.
Right. Now, remember, the same thing happened with HD. There was no HD content, and they charge you more for HD content. But in my opinion, HD is well worth it. Higher resolution is more realistic. And, in fact, I wish the industry had gone towards higher resolutions, not towards 3D, but that's just my opinion. Scott disagrees, and he's going to be on in a few minutes, and I'll let him explain why 3D is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Okay, have a great day.
Thanks, Aaron. I think you'll enjoy your new TV, and I would get a Samsung. I'll let Scott discuss the different model numbers. Samsung does make 3D. In fact, my business partner at TWiT just went out. She bought a TV. She bought a 3D at Scott's suggestion, and the reason she bought the 3D TV is she said, and this might be true, and I'll ask Scott, that she doesn't care about the 3D so much, although she's a big football fan, and I think sports in 3D might be kind of cool. She said the best TVs, the high-end TVs now are the 3D TVs. So she wanted the best TV, and it happened to be that she had to get the 3D. I just don't see it. I don't see it. And here's my fear, and there's certainly proof of evidence of this. These fads, like laser discs, remember them? I do too, because I bought a lot of them, and I had a laser disc player. HD, DVD HD. SACD, DVD. We've seen 100 fads come through the consumer electronics industry, and you spend money on this stuff, and then they kill it 3 years later, and you're stuck with a bunch of stuff you can't use. I have a 6-foot shelf of DVDs in HD DVD format, but it died. Blu-ray won. How many times have we seen that? How many times? So that's why I'm always, if the industry says 3D, I'm not going to march in lockstep to that one. if they're, if you want to spend and you want to get the best TV, and the reviewers and the consensus is, and I think Scott will say this, that the best TVs are also the 3D TVs. Okay. And you get 3D kind of, thrown in, right? Okay. Pair of glasses. I don't know. It's funny because you'd think I'm the tech guy. I'm going to embrace all new technologies, and I certainly do love technology. But every once in a while, I'll see stuff, and I say, no, I don't think that's it. FaceTime, Apple's FaceTime on the iPhone. I don't get it. I don't use it. I don't know anybody does. It's a gimmick. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We're talking high tech as we do every week at this time, and of course, we couldn't talk about home theater without getting this cat on. He is the editor-in-chief of the Ultimate AV magazine at ultimateavmag.com. He's a columnist at hometheatermag.com. He's been covering home theater and big screen TVs for years. He knows his stuff. Mr. Scott Wilkinson, ladies and gentlemen. The crowd goes well. I need a laugh and applause track.
There you go.
So, hey, Scott. So you, I'm sure, heard the conversation I had with Aaron moments ago.
I did. Yeah.
First of all, what about those blue dots? Do you know anything about that with the Grand Vegas? That's terrible.
I don't know about the blue dots. I do know that Sony rear projection TVs based on SXRD, which was their last couple of generations, suffered from what was called the green blob problem.
Maybe that's it.
It could. What he was describing didn't sound like it. It was not little blue dots. It was big green blobs.
Okay.
And there was a problem with that, but shortly thereafter they discontinued rear projection TVs, and so the problem kind of went away. Right. So, I'm kind of discouraged that TVs don't last longer now, and I don't think there are any TVs that are going to last 20 years anymore. I mean, I remember having a TV for 20 years, and
sure, but that's long gone.
That's long gone. I think we're not going to see that anymore.
Yeah. So there you go.
Recommendations were good.
Samsung, if he's going to buy an LED backlit LCD?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They make very good ones. Sony also makes very good ones. I don't think any of them are going to last 20 years, though, so you should sort of
be aware
of that expectation.
Is that because, well, first of all, it's the technology. 20 years from now, we'll probably have 4K screens. We'll have all sorts of new technology.
Maybe holography. Who knows?
Yeah, and they're not going to wear out, though, in that fast, are they?
Well,
they might.
Yeah, I mean, this guy had a problem after 5 years, right? And I hate to say it, but manufacturers might very well be, and I don't have any evidence to support this, might very well be planning for those TVs not to last that long. And so
I hope that's not the case.
I hope that's not the case, too. I really do.
But regardless, even if it doesn't wear out, you really are going to want a better TV in probably 10 years, I would guess.
Yeah, I would think so, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right.
So what about this issue of 3D? Because, maybe I mischaracterized your position, but certainly you're more of a fan of 3D than I.
Yes, I am. I have become a little more ambivalent about it lately, particularly on smaller screens. Because when you're watching 3D at home on a flat panel TV, you're usually sitting too far away, too far away for 3D, and you can see in your peripheral vision some stuff around the TV that's in real 3D, that is, in reality.
And there is a difference, isn't there, between real 3D, like real life, and this kind of pseudo 3D. That's one of my problems, is that it isn't really 3D.
That's correct. Now, if you go to the movies, I'm a big fan of 3D in the commercial cinema.
Yeah. I don't dislike that. I thought Avatar was pretty cool.
Avatar was great. Tron was great.
You saw Tron?
I did. In fact, I saw a screening on Wednesday night, 2 nights before it actually was released to the public.
Did you see the IMAX version?
No, that was at Disney Studios.
Okay.
Using Dolby 3D with a single projector. And it did look a little dim, as single projection 3D does. I'm going to go see it again in IMAX, because IMAX uses 2 projectors, so they throw a lot of light on the screen. And the screen is huge. And that's one of the keys. That plus enough light is two are the keys
for good 3D.
Precisely.
You can't have any peripheral vision, for one thing.
Yeah, you can't have stuff in the peripheral vision that is in real 3D as opposed to stereoscopic 3D.
Okay.
Now, I will say that you were correct in saying that 3D is, I think, in terms of 3D TV, it's becoming simply another feature of premium TVs. So that in the future, if you buy a premium TV, one of a company's higher end TVs, it's going to have 3D capability.
It just because I don't want to say it'll come along for the ride because you are paying for it. It's not like it's free.
Well, no, it's not free. But again, the economy of scale is going to make it not be very much. It's not going to represent very much of the set.
In some cases, it's $1,000 more for the 3D version of a TV.
Well, that's because of it's new now. It's brand new technology.
So you think in the long run, maybe a few $100s. Well, what is the differential between, say, Samsung's, affordable LED backlit LCD and their top of the line? A, what's the price differential? And B, aside from 3D, what is the difference in quality?
The price differential, I'd have to do some research on. Okay. I can't say that off the top of my head.
Okay.
But
it strikes me as it's around 1,000 or more. I mean, it's a significant difference.
I'm not sure about that. That's a very good question that I'll have to research and post a blog about.
Okay.
But in terms of picture quality, you are going to get a better picture quality with a 3D set, even in 2D mode, which is why I recommended to Lisa there in your office to get the Panasonic VT25, which is a fabulous 3D set.
That's a plasma set.
It's a plasma, yes. But it's also probably the best plasma of any plasma out there currently available, not including Pioneer Kuro, which is not available anymore.
Right. So that makes sense. And now, in her case, I think she might watch football in 3D, and she probably will enjoy that.
Probably
she's
will.
a big 49ers
she's getting a pretty large TV, too. It's a 58, as I recall.
Oh, man. That's good. So, I want to see that. That sounds pretty nice.
Yeah, you sit close enough to that with 3D, and you're not going to see anything in your peripheral vision, and it's going to look great.
All right, so as long as we're talking, Scott Wilkinson is here from the Ultimate AV Magazine. Do you want to before we I'm going to ask all questions today, but because I don't know why, but I am. Anything you want to plug? Do you have a poll going on right now?
Well, I got a poll this week. Yes, thank you very much. The poll this week is: how do you receive your TV mostly? By terrestrial over-the-air, cable, satellite, or internet? I'm particularly interested in knowing how many people primarily get their TV online, which is the newest way, obviously, of getting TV. It releases you from must-see Thursday. Right. There's no scheduling. You just go online and you get the show you want and you watch it.
Well, I was talking about that movie that I watched last night. It was an Amazon HD rental on a Roku. And I was surprised. I mean, it looked, it was probably not more than 720p, but it looked really good. And the thing that I thought is interesting, and somebody's confirmed this in the chat room, is that it looked like it was in HDR. And I think it was. Apparently, they did some processing to some of the videos so that it was hyper-realistic with this high dynamic range.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah, we've seen this before. It's very interesting. I'm starting to see in films that techniques that photographers have been using for still images are starting to migrate into films. Remember in The Social Network, the Facebook movie, they used a technique called tilt shift during the Oxford boat races. And it's a still technology that makes it has a really neat effect, and they used it, tilt shift, in the video, and it looked great. And we're starting to see people do HDR video, and it's kind of amazing looking.
I have to.
You'll have to
go
look.
I have to look for that now. Yeah. High dynamic range is great, and on your Kuro, it should look amazing.
It did.
Because the Kuro has that high dynamic range. It has that low, deep black.
Yeah.
And it should look fantastic. Well,
so even though it was only 720p, it's jumped out at me.
Yeah,
I mean, I was looking at it. In fact, my wife, who is not looking for anything like that, said, "Whoa, what's going on there? It looks really good, really real." And I think it's HDR.
And I'm very interested to hear that 720p, if that's what it was, looked that good. Downloaded content looked that good.
Yeah. I have to get the Blu-ray.
Comparing that with Blu-ray would be very interesting.
It was surprisingly good. I don't know if Amazon does higher quality or what's going on. The movie was Ghost Town, I should mention. Not the best in the world. Ricky Gervais, though, I'm a big fan of him. All right, hold on, Scott. We'll do a little more. Leo Laporte, tech guy. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Leo. Thanks for taking my call, and happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Here's my dilemma. My mom's 86, and she's been looking at a tube television pretty much since they've been invented. I want her to experience HD TV, so I went out and got a new HD television. I'm shopping for a decent Blu-ray DVD player, and I've talked to a cable company and getting her package turned over to AT&T.
Good.
Prize for her. But here's my dilemma. I'm looking for cables, and I'm seeing a 3-foot cable go from anywhere from $30 for 3 feet to $7 for 3 feet, and it's puzzling. So I was wondering if
you could spend more. Monster sells a $250 HDMI cable. $250.
That's not going to happen.
And it's, by the way, well, Scott backed me up on this, but in my opinion, no better than the $3 cable.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's exactly the same.
As long as the cable is capable of carrying the bandwidth,
right,
and that is determined mostly by whether or not it's certified by a concern called SimPlay.
SIMPLAY,
correct. SimPlay.
I saw a research study that did say that when you get to the longer cables, it makes a difference.
That's true.
Like 20 foot or something. But for a standard 6-foot cable, you're fine with a cheap
Absolutely
one. Monoprice.com. Scott Wilkinson, Ultimate AV Magazine. Thanks for joining us. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy.